Yo, what's up guys? How's everyone doing? Let me know if the audio and everything is fine. I did have some concerns going into this stream. I have another very interesting, of course as all videos are, very interesting video for you guys today. We're going to be taking a look at a little bit of a few comparisons today, like we did do with the USD video. I know that the feedback on that was amazing, so I thought it's time to do a little bit more of that kind of thing. But of course, before we do get into it, let's actually look at the basic Bitcoin technical analysis, and really nothing has changed. So what's happened, it's very, very clear now, is since everyone expected a short squeeze following this ETF, you know, everyone expected some sort of big volatility movement, myself included. We didn't get any of that. We've just been going completely sideways. This is yet another example of where the market just basically does what no one is expecting it to do. And so what we have been doing is just going sideways here. We've been continuing to range. I mean, this move is, again, nothing. I guarantee there were people saying moon when we were going up, $100 or whatever. But, you know, the same idea applies. I mean, the only way to make money in this kind of range is to be longing the bottom and shorting the top. I mean, it is the only thing that works in this kind of a range. And obviously, that kind of trading style it works, but it only works until it doesn't. And so the risk is quite high. Okay, audio is fine. It's fine. Thank you very much. Echo. Everyone else is saying it's fine. I'm not too sure. I don't know what to do about an echo. Yeah, so with this trend, I mean, really nothing has changed. I want to throw on these indicators. These are telling us some very interesting things. And by the way, we actually did a VIP stream on using moving averages and EMAs. We had a full sort of VIP Q&A. It was amazing. I always do love doing those. Just another message. Again, I can't remember where this is from, probably about a week ago. 48% profit. Making 300 euros from 750 euro positions, so you know, a couple more of those, and that is a full-time salary just from trading. Pretty cool. I do love seeing that financial independence. But if you do look at this daily EMA, you know, what we had was a clean rejection of our EMA ribbon here. We ended up wicking high. We got rejected off this. The same applies to our Ichimoku cloud, our EMA 48. We hit this cloud, we got rejected squarely, and you know, it all lines up really perfectly. The reason for that being, we actually have this resistance line at 6,800, and so 6,800 in itself is a pretty significant resistance zone. But then when you throw on the fact that we have an EMA line there, EMA 48, a pretty important EMA, I think. The daily Ichimoku cloud, we're actually in the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud right now. We've been almost rejected once already, and you know, this kind of sideways movement inside of an Ichimoku cloud, I'll admit, is not expected. I did not expect something like that, but nonetheless, I'm still favoring the downside in this kind of case. And you know, in this video I'm going to be outlining really you know, the frightening fate of Bitcoin, something that could potentially be playing out. I'm going to get to that again in just a second. Apart from that, we don't have anything new in the market telling us that something is going to change very soon. It's still looking like shaky waters. I mean, people are continuing to get liquidated and just completely wrecked in this kind of a range. But, you know, without delaying this further, I want to go over to the silver chart. And this is something I actually touched on in the USD video, actually, saying that when USD is rising, it's actually other coins, rather even assets, everything that starts to fall. Because a strong US dollar means that less people hedge. I was talking to Crypto Kobe about this, and he brought up that, you know, a potential pattern we could be looking at is a repetition of what's going on with silver. And so I started to throw on my basic lines. You guys know I'm not I don't throw on a million different indicators on my charts. I keep it very basic. One of the best pieces of non-financial advice that I can give all of you is, if you're new to technical analysis, do not put any indicators on your chart. Only use the volume, maybe RSI if you really want to. I would never, but use a naked chart and just identify basic candle patterns. If you look at a chart like this and your thought process is what the hell is going on, that's okay, but doing what I'm saying will actually beat that out of you very quickly. And so one of the first things I noticed was that, first of all, we go back to our Bitcoin chart actually to put this into context. And you know what we have, and the reason I was actually starting to lean bullish is that we have held this level, this area of support for so long. And you know, we look at the inverse chart. I touched on this in our VIP stream earlier today. Just quickly take a glance at that as well. I'll let you guys know what I think. For those of you who don't know, the inverse chart basically flips around the chart vertically, and so what we're seeing over here is that we're in a long-term downtrend. We're in a continuation pattern within that downtrend. If we had the volume, let's turn volume on. What the volume is telling us is that it's picked up during the down movements, which means it's confirming downwards movement. And what's actually happened is that while we're consolidating the trend with the volume, you look at this moving average, this orange line, the volume is actually going down. Volume precedes price. So what that means is if price is moving one way and volume is going down, it's actually meaning that that movement of price is not going to stay. It's actually going to reverse very soon. And so, you know, when we do start to fall down again, what do we see? We see the volume increasing. Very, very telling signs that we're still actually in a long-term bull run. My stance on the long term, like the super long term for Bitcoin, has not changed. I still think that it's in a very long term falling wedge. If we look at this, I mean, typical, we have a long uptrend, falling wedge, and then what happens from falling wedge? Very simply, we just end up breaking out like that. I mean, it happens all the time. So that's what I think of this. But we go back to silver, and actually we still need to look at Bitcoin here. What we have is Bitcoin actually returning to this support level many times. So it actually looks like it's leveling out. I'm sure if I can quickly change the kind of chart that we're looking at. I've forgotten how to do that though. Is it there? Okay, yeah, I don't know how to do it in this case, but you can change the chart to show you the Coinbase graph, and you know what it does is it basically fills in all of this area. So what you're looking at is an area graph, not a candle chart, a candlestick chart. But what we have is just basically leveling out in this area. I mean, it does look like a potential bottom for this entire trend, but when we do look at silver, again, shout out to Kirby for pointing this out. I completely missed it when I was looking at silver before. Like I said, I use naked charts. I mean, it's the best way to do your technical analysis as far as I'm concerned. And you know, what I discovered, what I saw, was pretty shocking. This level was held by silver pretty well. I mean, if we replay the chart, it looks a little bit like what Bitcoin is at right now, where we fall down to the same level, we consolidate, we bounce up, consolidate, bounce up. But of course, you guys have just seen how that ended up playing out, and we ended up actually breaking down. So you can see that right there. And since then, you know, when that happened in 2014, we've only returned to that level once in 2016 or 17, and it was only briefly. I mean, it was testing old support, which had now turned to resistance. So what I'm going to do is actually place a vertical line right there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then that in itself was a pretty telling trend to me, because what it meant was that it hit a level like Bitcoin has been doing. Remember, this is a 3-day chart, so we're actually looking at very long-term movements, and so this might look like a small amount of trading action, but it probably represents, I mean, it almost definitely represents what Bitcoin is doing. It's gone on for longer. This is about a year's of trading. Obviously, we've only been in this bear market for about 8 months, but that the same still applies in that, you know, we've been testing these lows, and these lows have been held, but they only hold until they don't, and that's when we break down and then never really return to those levels. As you know, as far as silver is concerned, I mean, it almost definitely will in the future. None of it's financial advice, of course, but we're looking at the trend right now. Get some water, that is a good idea. I was actually eating some Lahori food, Pakistani food, and it's not a good, don't do that before streams. Yeah, so over to this horizontal line once again. I mean, the second thing I noticed, which really started to set off alarm bells for me now, was you know, we actually had the same thing playing out with silver. Sorry, I've got to move this line right here. So we had the same thing playing out with silver, and you guys are now seeing what the thumbnail of this chart, you know, that I had for this video, and basically the same deal. I mean, capitulation down, bouncing up, quick recovery down again because it was such a harsh bounce, forming an M formation. We had exactly the same thing with Bitcoin, using this level as support once again, rallying up, failing, breaking down, testing, repeating the same pattern and then breaking down once again. So we'll put this together and look at how this applies to Bitcoin. I've already done it with this chart, and yeah, I mean, the patterns are striking and alarmingly similar. Take it easy with the Lahori food. It was butter chicken. It was bloody amazing. Yeah, so what we could be looking at is potentially breaking down, just like silver did. And this is hard for even me to process because I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, albeit jokingly, like I always say, but I love Bitcoin. And to think that it has... Audio is bad? How is... Okay, so everything's fine on my end. Please let me know in the chat if it's just me. Isn't Kirby a small round pink puppet? Daniel, Crypto Kirby is an analyst in the space. I thought the same before. But yeah, so what we're potentially looking at if this plays out is actually, maybe rallying even up to $7,000. Like I say, I think it's a real possibility. Audio is fine, thank you, it's fine. Great. And then we end up breaking down into a channel like this. I mean, really, it could have been anywhere. I just decided to put this line at 2,000 because it is arguably where the parabola began. Alright, you could also say that it started at $1,000, which was the top of the previous bubble, and so that could be our true return to the mean. I personally think that we're looking at 2,000. I mean, I don't even think it's going to go that low, but, with speaking hypothetically, potentially the frightening fate of Bitcoin, what we are looking at is a support level like this. I mean, we can even drag it up to appease some people who might be upset by this chart. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I mentioned that some people are going to be upset with this video because I'm being extremely bearish, but it's all about looking at these different viewpoints and then deciding for yourself, is this a good environment to be trading in? And so what this very well could be is a case of, we end up forming a similar, I could use the ghost feed here if I can find it, but I'm also, okay, I think this is it, yeah, so, potential pattern like this, and then, we end up breaking down, forming the same kind of pattern, and then we end up breaking down once more, and then potentially down to 1,000. Like I said, I really don't think that's going to be the case, but we have to look at every possibility, and so trading in a range like this is definitely one of the possibilities. And the reason I'm giving it credit, right, this is not a theory. I mean, it's the first time I've heard of something like this. I mean, the first time I've seen a chart like this. The reason I'm giving it weight is that the bullish news, as we all know, is not affecting the market. Now, there is an exception to this, that exception being actually last night when we had our Bitcoin ETF, ETN, ProShares ETN news. It was a rejection, and it told us that the market now may also not be responding to bearish news, because again, if we zoom in now and look at the Coinbase chart here, we had our ProShares news right around here. I mean, it resulted in a 200 drop and then just brought right back up. So this is actually a bullish hammer. Hammers don't really count for much in this range. I was talking to a member about that, but nonetheless, something to take note of. And for example, if you were to look at this hammer, most of the time it won't work. So I don't know, potentially here. Okay, these do work, but when you look at these right, my bad, this is not a hammer, but if this wick was not here, this would be a bullish hammer, and it would potentially tell us that the next candle would be going up. It's just, again, very basic charting. This is why you don't want to overcomplicate. I mean, look at my chart. Literally the only indicator I have is volume, and then I have a bunch of lines. But around the time of that ProShares news, we had a bit of a dump. I think that was insider trading because it happened before the news was released, if I'm not mistaken. But then it actually looked like, the market wasn't responding to bearish news. Now, the caveat with this, obviously, is that everyone was expecting it this time. Everyone was expecting a short squeeze. I mean, we look at the shorts now, and think back to every analyst that was telling you, that was worshipping these shorts. I mean, I said it very clearly last night. I've stopped looking at them on purpose because too many people are giving them too much weight. But look at these shorts. I mean, it's already recovered most of what it dropped by yesterday. And like I said, the all-time high for shorts is not a resistance level. It's it's probably not going to stop shorts from rising even further. So this is something to continue to keep an eye on, but not not putting bloody Elliott waves on this. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. You don't actually do conventional charting on shorts. It's just something to quickly glance at potentially, and then move on. I mean, I acknowledge that I made the mistake in the past of spending way too much time on shorts, and I look back at that and cringe, because it's really the last thing you should be doing. But still, use all the information you can get and then formulate sound decisions based off that. And again, it comes to looking at a chart and actually understanding what it's telling us, not just being like, what the hell is this? We can place the news around this time, and we know that the ProShares ETF was rejected. The market did not react, and so the conclusion I'm getting at from that is that we may actually, be holding this support level, and it could be a plausible bottom. So I went over the bearish scenario. Now looking at the bullish scenario, I mean, really, it's basically the same thing. Like I said in Telegram, link in the description, completely free to join Crypto Mafia Gold. Two faces of the same coin. Something I said, two sides of the same coin, and we are either very bullish or very bearish. I am leaning bearish. I've gone over the reasons at length, but we are looking at a level that has been held many times. We're now getting negative news that literally did nothing to the market. Now, many people would argue that an ETF or ProShares would actually be negative itself, and so the rejection was good news. That's a completely different debate. We're talking about what the normies, the retail, would be thinking. And of course, the retail is us. So this is an instance of introspection, really. It's pretty interesting. It is telling us that we could be at a bottom right now. I've seen some comparisons of the Bitcoin 2014 chart. So if I do go on that, again, remove all of my lines now, I will never have to talk about this again, hopefully. What we had in 2014 was a sort of falling wedge. Let's get my lines here and draw this. Now, I do not know how to draw this falling wedge, because when I saw it, I laughed at it. I thought it was pretty ridiculous. But nonetheless, I did see it, and I think it's worth... What have I done? I think it is worth pointing out. So, we had a bit of a... I mean, it was something ridiculous like this. And it's a falling wedge to show that, actually Bitcoin is... well, back in 2014, it ended up breaking out of this. And then, that was the bottom. So, I mean, it looked a lot like this. It was actually quite a bullish post. And that was compared to Bitcoin... We'll stick to the Bitstamp chart. That was compared to Bitcoin back here, where we also have some form of a, descending triangle or something going on. And that could potentially sort of indicate the bottom, that we're going to end up breaking out of this. Now, this in itself, I don't think carries much weight, because I have personally been drawing these patterns for months prior, and they never played out. So I just feel like this specific pattern for Bitcoin is not reliable. Now, most analysts won't acknowledge these things because they may not have had the right experience. That's completely fine. That's no falling wedge. No, it's not. It's the wrong word I used. But nonetheless, what they are saying is that we're at the bottom, and sentiment is fairly poor. Like I say, maybe we're in depression now, but if we go down to half price of Bitcoin right now, that would be even more real depression. So it all depends on how hard this depression has to be, and I just feel like it hasn't become as terrible as it may get. But who uses silver? Consciousness and puppies. Well, more people definitely use silver than Bitcoin. See, silver is like a hedge. It's another thing to trade. So it's like saying who uses gold. And we're putting aside the arguments for jewelry and stuff. It's just something to trade. It's something to hedge with. And the argument here is that we could end up breaking out. We've stabilized at this zone, and so, like I said, the two sides of the same coin. Now what this is a case for you to look at the market and decide for yourself. What do you think is going on? Do you think that We have hit the bottom. Do you think it has to get a lot worse? You know, the best way, I'm reading a book called Market Wizards. I forgot to add these links in the description again today. I'm reading a book called Market Wizards by Jack Schwager. Amazing book. I think it's Schwager. And one of the points in there, one of the people he's interviewing says that if you ever have doubt in your position, and guys, I think right now is a time of huge doubt. If you ever have doubt in a position, close it. Close that position, and this is from a trader's perspective, not an idiot who bought at the all-time high. I'm sorry if that was you, but we know in hindsight it was a stupid decision. Don't worry, I'm an idiot too. The point is, you know, we know in hindsight now, completely lost my train of thought there. That is so annoying. Hang on, I will get it. Nearly got it. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Right, yeah, so when you're in a position, you want to close your position, and that will help you look at it objectively. If you're in a position where, you know, you still have a lot of money in Bitcoin, then you obviously want it to go higher. And it's not impossible, but it is very hard to remove that bias. The easiest way to remove that bias and to look at the markets objectively once again, without any emotional attachment, is to just pretty much close your positions and remove your monetary investment in it. It's harder to remove your emotional investment because you're going to have a little bit of regret perhaps, but this is the game we play. It's all about removing these emotions to look at the markets objectively. And so yeah, I do not think that is going to play out. I do think we're actually in for moving a little bit lower here. You know, this is a bear flag. I was thinking, comparing this to what we had previously, this is a very big thing I wanted to cover as well in today's stream, in that we had a period of sideways movement before going up last time. This was back in April. We had that massive April 12th pump. This has gone on for longer now. Actually, let me just confirm that. I don't want to be wrong about what I'm saying. So this has gone on for 15 days, because I started that ruler off incorrectly. And this one went on for 13 days. So yeah, we are actually longer than last time in this case for this consolidation period. And it just seems foolish to me to expect that since we had a pump up last time, the same thing is going to repeat itself this time. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I do think it is possible that, like I said, we even end up going to 7,000 and then going down lower. That does fit in with our trend of 1,500 lower to 10,000, 1,500 lower to 8,500, and then 1,500 lower to 7,000. I've been saying this all the time. It does fit in with that. I mean, even one of the fairly big possibilities, I think, in this kind of a market right now is that we could even go as high as, say, $10,000. You know, we set a new higher high above this 8,500, and then we truly go down. You know, no matter what happens now, though, I do think that even if we end up going to $10,000, just the fact that we've been rejected 3 times means that whatever happens next will be a fake out if we do end up going higher. And so it's just very shaky market conditions. You know, what we are looking for first and foremost is to leave this period of sideways movement. That you cannot trade off volatility in a range like this. I mean, it has to change before we can start taking bigger action. But when that does happen, I am expecting, I mean, rather, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually end up going very high before we do continue on with this downtrend. How's the dollar index? Daniel, you don't really do analysis on the dollar like every other day. You know, when you look at it, you're looking at the very large macro trend. Unless you're actually trading those currencies. We will go up from here, in my honest opinion. Definitely possible. Like I said, the whales made a killing with this game. Why would ever want it to end? It has no regulation still. Good point, Bell. I mean, we don't have to look further than Bitfinex and BitMEX together. If we're looking at manipulation and how they're making money off manipulating the market. If you miss out on a win, it's also a loss. That is a terrible, terrible mindset. I hope you are joking. That's pitiful. I'm sorry if that's actually your mindset. Something else will be invented better than Bitcoin before it goes back to all-time high. Now, it reminds me of all those adverts that say the next Bitcoin in terms of gains. Hasher, I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of people will disagree with me on that, but I don't think it's going to happen. We are still in a downtrend, that's all. Yeah, completely agree. It will return, but I doubt it will ever get new all-time high again. It's possible, man. It is possible. Yeah. Let's see what else we've got. talking about holding. What was your message before? Yeah. I mean, well, holding is only a strategy in a bull market. If you hold in a bear market, you just keep on losing money. Same for buying the dip. I mean, if you buy the dip in a bear market, you're just going to keep on buying the dip, and soon you'll be out of money. So yeah, I mean, it's a different game when you're in a bear market. You know, the idea is to short the tops, which is very predictable, by the way. You know, you look at things like the EMA ribbon, and it's just like handing the bloody profits to you on a platter. It's ridiculous. And then yeah, you know, it becomes different when you're in a bull market as well. Always another chance at win unless you get wrecked. Yeah, I mean, Paul, unless you get liquidated or something by being stupid and going all in 100x, you know, you always have more chances to make money. I can't, you know, the things I did before I became the trader I am today, I am embarrassed to speak about. You know, I've made every noob mistake 10 times. So I've been around in terms of bad decision, and I know how it goes. But yeah, you know, with that, I'm going to be heading off. I did want to cover those two things and, you know, give you guys my insight from what I've been seeing. I thought it was really shocking, and I knew I had to share this with you as soon as I saw these patterns on Bitcoin. Let me know what you think of these in the comments again. Four Flies, I don't get why you don't watch the order books due to bots. The bots are traders too. Kyle, have you tried watching them? You will realize. Watch the order books for about 5 minutes, just continuously watch how the price reacts, and you will realize why I don't watch the order books. But yeah, with that, I'm gonna be heading off. Hope you'll have a hope you do all have a fantastic rest of your day, and with that, I'm gonna be out. Peace.